Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry, and today I'll be reviewing another game for you all. Today I'll be reviewing this game right here, Kingdom Builder, designed by Donald X. Vaccarino and published by Queen's Games. This is the 2012 Spiel des Jahres winner, award winner, and I'm going to be setting up this game, giving a little brief playthrough, showing you how the game is played and how it's set up, and then I'll come back and share my final thoughts and grades with you all. So this is what a two-player game looks like set up on the table. The base game box comes with 8 of these different modular terrain boards, and you mix and match and combine 4, any randomized 4 of these. And then you use a 5th one on the reverse side. It has the score track, which all the scoring is really left to the end of the game. So every one of these boards, every combination will make a different configuration of the different terrain types and a few other special locations that the particular modular board might have. Also, a common typical location on all of the player boards are these castles right here, which are very, very valuable. So I will explain the unique locations later on. Each player has a supply of settlements that look like this, these little houses, very similar to Settlers of Catan or Settlers of Catan shaped settlements. And we have this deck of cards, and each player will draw their starting hand of 1 card. Yes, you heard me right, 1 card. Each player only gets 1 card, and that card basically designates a terrain type in which they could place settlements. So let's just go through the features of the board. There are basically 7 different terrain types. You have water and mountains, which for the most part are uninhabitable terrains, but they are important in certain strategic aspects of this game. You also have your flower fields right here. You have your grass fields in the green. You have your forests right here with the trees. You have your canyons, which are these brown spaces right here. And you have your desert spaces. So those are the different terrain types. Again, I mentioned that there's special locations, including your castle and some of these specific locations that have 2 tiles that correspond with that type of location on each spot, because players are going to be able to acquire these tiles if they can connect settlements that are adjacent to these locations. No player can ever grab more than 1 tile from one specific spot, even if they connect to it multiple times. All right, so again, we each have 1 player card. Now, we also set aside, and the game is amazing because it has these aids right here which explain what the different special locations do, and again I'll specify later as to what they do. And you also, the game comes with about 12 of what they call the kingdom cards, and you shuffle and randomly select 3 kingdom cards, and basically they're going to tell you how you will score in that particular game, because from game to game your objectives and your scoring conditions are going to vary. The one constant in Kingdom Builder is that every castle that your settlements touch, no matter how many of those individual settlements touch it, if at least 1 or more touch that castle, then you get 3 points for each castle you touch. Other than that, no scoring condition is the same from game to game. It's all dependent on these kingdom cards. So, first of all, let me explain the ones for this particular game. We have the miners, pretty simple. Build settlements next to a mountain. You're going to get 1 gold or 1 point here on the victory track. 1 gold for each of your own settlements built adjacent to 1 or more mountain hexes. So you're going to look at the mountain hexes and you're going to count all your settlements that happen to be adjacent to them, and you're going to score a point for each one of those. You have your knights, which tells you to build many settlements on 1 horizontal line. You're going to get, for the knights, you're going to get 2 gold or 2 victory points for each of your own settlements built on the horizontal, that's from left to right, the horizontal line with the most of your own settlements. So you're going to want to build at least 1, on 1 line, you're going to want to focus and build lots of settlements, because that's going to be worth lots of points for you. 2 points for every settlement on that longest line of yours. Finally, we have the Fisherman, which make you build settlements on the waterfront. You're going to get 1 gold or 1 victory point for each of your own settlements built adjacent to 1 or more water hexes. So now you're going to look at settlements that are adjacent to water, and each of those will score you a point. So on a player's turn, let's just do it here with the orange player. They have no choice as to which card they're going to play. They have to play their one and only card in the hand, which some people feel is limiting. However, you do have options as to where to place it. So first of all, we have here the card representing the canyon. So on my turn, I can place 3 settlements, and they all must be in a canyon region on the board. However, whenever I place settlements down, if possible, I must build it adjacent to something that's already on the board. I have nothing on the board, so the sky's the limit. However, from this point forward, wherever I place a settlement, I might, put myself in a position where I'm forced to place other cards down adjacent to it in the future. So I'm going to play this canyon, and I'm actually going to pick this spot right here to put 3. Actually, you know what? I don't like that spot. I'm going to do it. I could touch this castle. How about we just, get this charade out of the way? I'm going to put 3 right here. And because I connected, well, first of all, I'm only adjacent to desert. So I'm only going to be limited in desert. As far as the other terrain types, if I draw any of them, I'll have, freedom to put them wherever I want because they're not necessarily adjacent to where I'm at on the board. But because I connected a settlement to one of these locations, I draft one of these location tiles. And this in particular is the tower. And what the tower allows you to do, and what all of these special location tiles allow you to do, is they allow you to get extra actions for placing down settlements on your turn. Because again, on your turn, you really only get 1 action. You play your one and only card, and you put 3 settlements in that terrain type. This, however, allows me, and this arrow is very important, this symbol of an arrow indicates that you're placing an additional settlement. So this would allow me to place a 4th settlement on my turn. But in particular, it has to be on an edge space of the board. So it cannot be anywhere in the middle. It has to be somewhere on the edge of the board. And with these special tiles, just like with your regular placement of settlements, if you can place a settlement adjacent to somewhere where you already are present on the board, you must place your settlements there, right? So this is a helpful additional tile, again, because it allows me to put a 4th settlement down. Okay, so there's that. I cannot play it on the same turn that I acquired it, however. Now the blue player will go. They will play their one and only card, which is this flower. And they get to place the flower field. They get to place 3 settlements. And they'll just place it right here next to this spot right here. And we have the token right here, and it is the paddock. And the way the paddock, the paddock works right here. The way the paddock works is, we have the symbol right here. It allows you, this straight arrow indicates that you move an existing settlement as opposed to the curved arrow, which tells you that you add an additional settlement. So this tile right here allows you to move an already existent settlement 2 spaces in a straight line. And the cool thing about the paddock here is that this is the one and only action in the game that allows you to break the rules of adjacency. If you move it 2 spaces down in a straight line and it happens to not be adjacent to any other existent settlement, it is fine. So that's a cool way of breaking what's perhaps the biggest rule in this game, which is the rules of adjacent placement. Okay, so we're done with that. By the way, at the end of each player's turn, they replenish their hand of 1. Okay, so now I will go, the orange player will go again, and I've got, again, just 1 choice. However, I do have this tile that gives me a bonus action, and the cool thing about these bonus action tiles is you can mix and match them in any order you want with your 1 regular action. So you don't necessarily have to do it in any specific order. You do it in the order that's most convenient and most beneficial to your strategy. So right now, I could place 3 in a grass field, and because I am not adjacent to any grass field, I have the freedom to pick where I can place them. So I could go for an additional tower because you can have a second tile of the same type. You just cannot get a second tile from the one and same location. But if you go to another location, you can gain a second tile. I think I might do that just because this still gives me freedom because I'm still not adjacent to any. I'm going to place this here instead of here so that I'm not adjacent to the flower fields and it gives me more options. And I'll get a second tile because the more of these tiles, the better. Because again, you get to place additional settlements on the board. And placing more settlements gives you more actions on your turn. So I cannot play this one because I just acquired. However, I can play the one that I acquired on the previous round. I'll flip it over to indicate that it's being used. And I get to place this. Now, this one, I have to be very careful. I could place this on any space on the edge. And because, well, wait, nope, I am limited. There is a space on an edge that happens to be adjacent to somewhere I'm at. So I am going to be forced to place this settlement right here. Okay, and then the player will replenish their hand. Now the blue player will go and they will replenish their hand and they will play their one and only card that they can't. Oh no, this is the hand that they replenish with. Sorry about that. They play another flower field. So now the blue player will put 3 settlements somewhere where there is an existing flower field, but they are forced to put it here because they're already adjacent there, right? So there is a flower field that happens to be adjacent to where they're already at. So unfortunately, the blue player is a little bit limited, but you know what? They're going to do something like this in order to surround that mountain because again, according to these scoring conditions, you will score 1 point for every mountain space you're adjacent to, just like the orange player is going to score 1 point for every water space that he is adjacent to. Okay, and that's pretty much it. You're going to keep on doing this until one player runs out of their supply of 40 settlements. And after that, every other player will get 1 more turn, regardless of who was the first player in the game. After that, you will count all the scoring conditions, which include adjacency to your castles, and again, the 3 specific kingdom cards that were assigned for that game. You're going to tally up the points. Whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. So let's get back and hear my final thoughts and grades. So, Kingdom Builder, that's how it's played. So, again, this is the Spiel des Jahres winner. This is basically the family weight game. If you're looking for a heavy game or even a medium weight game, this is not the game for you. But for what it is, which is basically almost a quasi-filler, simple family gateway game that you could play with virtually anybody, non-gamers, casual gamers, your parents, whoever. This game has that universal, point of entry as far as the simplicity of its rules. It's very, very basic, actually. And I think that's the knock lots of people have on it. So first of all, let me talk about the components. I'm going to give this a B+ as far as components are concerned. I think the components are just fine. The modular boards that you put together, the artwork is highly functional. The colors are bright. They stand out. They look different. The different terrains look different from one another. The card quality is just fine. The artwork on some of the kingdom cards is cool. It's nice art. The tiles that you place on the board are functional. I think the one knock, probably keeping it from it being an A+, is the settlements. They're just so basic. They look like your typical Catan settlements, Settlers of Catan settlements. And I just feel like maybe they could have done something a little bit different, something a little bit that stands out a little bit more. This game came out in 2011, so it's not necessarily the oldest of games. I think they could have invested a little bit more into the component quality. But other than that, I think the components are just fine. I get it. This is not necessarily the heaviest, meatiest game, and to some extent, games at this level don't have that kind of component quality. But I think it could have had more unique looking buildings or settlements. Then we will move on to the theme. And this game is going to get a solid D for theme or lack thereof. This is very much an abstract game with some, components to it. I mean, I guess there is some thematic purpose to some of these buildings, I guess, to some extent. You have your castles, and surrounding the castle makes your settlements more valuable. That sounds somewhat thematic, I guess. The kingdom cards and their titles to some extent correspond with what direction they give to a particular game. But all of that is still comes out in a very abstracted fashion. But if you enjoy abstract games, this is a neat one. It really, really is. And I think that's how people have to look at it. People look at the one card and moving on to gameplay, which, by the way, I'm gonna give it a solid A for gameplay, honestly, for what it is. A light, gateway style game, abstracted. People give it a lot of flack because you only have a hand of one card, right? And you have to play that card. There's no choice. There is no hand management in this game. Just because there are cards does not mean that there needs to be hand management. This is just one card. There's lots of games where hand management doesn't really take place, even though you have multiple cards in your hand, right? Here, yes, you're playing one card. You have no choice as to the card, but you do have a choice, especially early on, as to where you place your settlements. And those early choices are going to affect future choices, right? So you do want to get off to a good start. But even your subsequent turns, you're going to be provided an inkling of decision as to how you orient your settlements, what directions, and so on and so forth. Again, to set yourself up for future turns. You're going to be acquiring some of these special action tiles along the way, and they're going to be giving you additional actions, and how you utilize them, when you utilize them, how you capitalize on them, again, will affect and give you more options going forward as the game progresses. So again, there are choices. Just that, yes, you're going to have the luck of the draw, so to speak, which lots of games involve, some sort of randomized element, whether it's a die roll or, again, just the shuffling of a deck of cards. So yes, you're going to be limited. The point is, you're taking one basic action each turn. And yes, the draw deck, you could look at it as a destiny deck, if you will, right? Maybe if people didn't have to hold on to that card, maybe they wouldn't be so apprehensive about it. Maybe if you just drew the card immediately upon your turn, you would look at it as the destiny deck. Where does destiny say I may go? And again, that could be a little bit frustrating, but you'd be surprised how much choices you have working around that. And again, the fact that there are less choices is advantageous to the style and the weight of this game. This is meant to be a gateway experience. So for non-gamers or even some casual gamers, they do not want to be overwhelmed or burdened by a plethora of decisions. The fact that at the very least, they know that, boom, their 3 settlements have to go on these specific terrain types kind of alleviates that pressure and relieves them to some extent, of making a bad decision, or the fear of making a bad decision, because yes, they have a little bit less choices to make. Even so, again, I just love, factoring in everything with the kingdom cards and the variety just that the kingdom cards add. And of course, just the modular boards. There's only 8 in the base game, but they could combine in so many different ways. And each board has a different special building type or location type that has a special ability unique to itself. All these things make the game highly, highly replayable. Even just off the base game, it would probably take a while before you play the same exact game with the same configuration of maps and the same configuration of kingdom cards. So again, A for gameplay. Novelty factor. Now, this one is tough. There's other games that have you place, buildings or influence on a physical space on the board, but again, there are some unique things. So I'm going to give this a solid B, because yes, you do have that one hand of card that, that I know of. No other game, or at least most other games, don't really have that one hand card. And, you have modular boards, which is not new. Tons of games are doing the modular board thing. But just the combinations of the kingdom cards and how the scoring conditions are always going to be different from game to game, I think that's cool. There are some games that are like scenario-based games that, because they're scenarios, there's a different objective in each scenario. But for this type of game, a light gateway Euro-style game, non-scenario based game, how many of these types of games have different, scoring conditions from game to game? Not very many, but this one does. You cannot settle in for a particular strategy. You cannot necessarily do the same thing from game 1 to game 2. So don't think you figured the game all out because you had one good performance. The next time you play, it might be a totally different game based on those kingdom cards. And it's very simple because it's just 3 little scoring conditions that you have to keep track of. So again, it's not a whole lot of bookkeeping or, mental gymnastics to figure out how to activate those scoring cards. So again, I'm going to give it a solid B for novelty factor. And overall, I think I'm just going to give this game an A-, honestly. The theme, yes, it is. I did give it as low as a D. But here's the thing. Again, for this style of game, this game is basically an abstract game. Like, just look at it as an abstract game. There's lots of pretty abstract games nowadays with pasted on themes that we don't take it so personally when the themes don't necessarily integrate well with the mechanisms. So again, just look at a kingdom builder from that perspective. Just ignore the fact that yes, the theme is a D. And again, with all the other factors, this game gets a solid A- for me. Well, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this game. Its first impression on you. Perhaps you've already played it. Perhaps you have rated it higher than me. Or maybe you were deeply disappointed by this game. I'm interested in reading what you have to say. This is Harry saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.